not necessarily those of Alpha Media or their station. Now it's time for On Point with Cynthia Hardy, the most talked about, thought-provoking hour in radio. Sponsored by Dominion Energy. Here's your host, Cynthia Hardy.
Hey guys, good evening and welcome to On. Thank you for tuning in. Today's show is important because we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to talk to you about a very important issue. Today's show, love and violence, a deadly combination. According to Hotline.com, the age group with the highest rate of domestic violence, partner violence, well, they're young women, ages 18 to 35. And that may surprise some people, but think about some of the things you've seen in the news lately. You know, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and South Carolina remains in the top 10 of states for women killed by male partners. And unfortunately, we have been in the top 10 for 23 of the last 25 years. Today's show is about recognizing the signs and regaining your power. Sister Care's executive director is here. Leah Weisovic is here with us today. She headlines, and I appreciate her being here. We had an excellent show this morning on our television show on the same issue. So thank you, Leah, for being with us today. Very important information that we have to share.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We're also delighted to have survivor, author, and filmmaker Kiwan Fitch. She has been in our market now for 20 years? 15? Okay, 15?
15 years.
Okay, 15 years. But since you have been here, you have dedicated yourself to women's empowerment on a number of different levels, especially women who may find themselves not exercising their full potential. And that comes in a number of different ways, but certainly being in a limiting relationship like a domestic violence relationship, that's one of the ways that you have helped.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So just so happy to have you here because you have so much to share. And we do want to talk about your film, She Pours, at some point today.
Absolutely.
And talk about that because we're so proud of that accomplishment. It's such a huge one, especially since you're on Amazon Prime now. I just think that's great. All right. We also have in our studio Stephanie Jacobs. Stephanie, welcome back. You have become an advocate in this space for domestic violence awareness since you lost your niece, Jalen Hasty, last year, and so I've just seen so many of the efforts that you've been doing around the state with regards to educating young women about this, and also talking to young men as well.
Yes, thank you so much for having me again, once again.
Yes, we're delighted to have you on point. Welcome to all of you guys to the show today. So, you know, we're just excited to have you. So let's just go get right on into it. I want to invite our audience also to give us a call. A number of you guys that are out there may have experienced domestic violence and may be currently in a domestic situation that gets violent. I want you to know that today's show is going to be sensitive, it is going to be raw, and it may be triggering for some individuals. Just want to let you know that, just in case you want to maybe excuse yourself or not listen. You'll know as the conversation goes on, but I just want you to know that we do want to get information out, and we will be talking about real-life situations that are going on right now. We also want to hear from you guys about your experiences, ways that you have helped women in these circumstances, ways that you have helped men in these circumstances. So give us a call at 803-783-9936, 783-WWDM. I think it's important, Kiwan, that we, and thank you for saying that to me, Leah, about the disclaimer, but I think it's important because sometimes we may underestimate, and you too, Stephanie, we may underestimate the pain that people are in.
Absolutely. It's not it's a community issue, but families have been hiding these situations for so long. We have grown up in families, but what happens in our house stays in our house, and it's sad that in 2024 that's still the case with so many hugely violent incidents of domestic violence.
You say hugely.
Absolutely, because it's a traumatic thing that happens. You know, it's no longer, when dad gets drunk, he just acts up a little bit and he goes and sits in the corner. Maybe in the 50s and 60s, that's how it was. But now it is extremely violent. It's extremely triggering. It's a traumatic thing that happens. And that could be without even physical violence. So just, the terror of living when you don't know how to, children are walking on eggshells.
When you say terror, you really mean terror.
I do. I truly do. You don't know, I guess, I think about the kids. the kids and the women, you just don't know how what's happening in the home. And again, we put so much emphasis on the physical violence because that is apparent. You can see that. But when you can't sleep because every night there's some heated arguments that you can't unhear things. I didn't ever see my father put his hands on my mother, but there were certain things that he said to her that were so mean and nasty that I can remember my mom saying it to me about what he said to her.
I see.
And you just don't know. I look at my feet differently because he said to her, "I know your feet in hell."
Oh my.
But for a little girl, I am 52 years old. I can still remember
hear it.
that.
You hear it.
And it was mean, it was nasty, it was abusive, and she endured. And it triggered me as an adult. And you just don't know what those things leading up to physical violence also have such a huge impact on a family.
You guys, lately I've seen instances in our, just in our news reporting about situations that may not be called domestic violence, but it's certainly violent. You remember the young lady that drove her car into Broad River? After that situation with they obviously were having a disagreement, an argument of some sort, and there had been some kind of exchange of violence between the two of them. And then that happened. And then there's a kid, that in Orangeburg County that ran his girlfriend and her friend off the road, and they died because teenagers. He saw her in the car with another guy, and it appears, they're charging him with manslaughter. He could get 30 years on each of those 2 counts, and he's a kid, And so to see that level of violence, and then of course, when you ask the question, why are we seeing this? I'm hearing, Leah, that some of it has to do with the trauma that people themselves face as young people. Like when you see young people being perpetrators of domestic violence, perhaps it's linked to the trauma they themselves have endured.
Absolutely. The intergenerational cycle of violence is real. It's been proven over and over again with research that oftentimes when little boys grow up in violent homes, they have a greater chance of becoming abusers, and little girls that grow up in violent homes have a greater chance of becoming victims. And what's unsettling about that is approximately 1 in 10 children witness domestic violence in their homes. So they're seeing it,
That's
they're
a
hearing
lot of
it,
kids.
they're feeling it. And so there's that intergenerational cycle of violence, and then you pair that with this increased rate of teen dating violence that we're seeing now, largely digital abuse, which is a whole other ballgame compared to the physical, the financial, the gaslighting, and psychological abuse. So it's very complicated, and it's so important to talk about it and get it out there. We don't want survivors feeling, a lot of times our clients say that they're prisoners in their own homes and that their abusers are the wardens. And
I bet they feel that way.
it really feels that way, and they really feel like there is no way out.
I would like to piggyback
Sure,
off of
Stephanie.
Kiwan when she talked about growing up in the home and being exposed, not so much as, actually seeing it, but today the children are present on every level. They're not sent away. I remember growing up, and my parents were entertainers. We always had people at our house, and it was a rule. Grown people, you don't sit with the grown people. You go with the kids. But today, the kids are right smack in the middle of life in the house, and I can say that has a lot to do with it, because not only do they get to see the verbal abuse, but they're hearing the stress, and they're hearing the subjects, whether it's bills, whether it's
Infidelity.
exactly. They're right there in the middle, and it's to the point where when you're in conversations, the conversations are getting heated, and then all of a sudden you'll see the children, they're playing, and now they're throwing things, or they're jumping off the couch, or because they're trying to be a distraction to what is going on. Even with Jay Sarah's daughter, Kinsley, we
and you
know.
call Jalen J. Sarah.
Yeah, we call her Jay Sarah.
That's what she really wanted
That's
to go
what
by?
she really wanted to
that
go
was
by.
her, yeah.
Yep, she loved
The media calls her Jalen, but J. Sarah's
Jay
really.
Sarah, yeah, and that's what, that's our hashtag, is a voice for Jay Sarah. Kinsley would, she's in therapy. And
How old is her daughter?
Kinsley's 4.
Oh.
Yeah, she turned 4 in February. So she's up for a birthday. She'll
Okay.
be 5, and she is doing great. She is embracing that her mom is in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
She talks about her mom. Butterflies, those are her mom.
Okay.
Yeah, when she see the butterflies.
Would you tell our audience what happened to J. Sarah?
Absolutely, I sure will share that. Jalen and Katie, is what we called him, were discovered in the apartment by the fire department.
They thought it was a water leak or something.
Yes, well, the sprinkler system went off in the apartment building.
I see.
Yes, and what we were told is when the gun went off, one of the bullets hit the sprinkler system.
I see.
And it flooded the building. So they were coming in to do what they call a well check on each one of the apartments.
Mm-hmm.
And when they got to J. Sarah's apartment, it was flooded, and both of them were in the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
She was dead, and he was unresponsive from a gunshot wound to the face. Me and my sister have not brought ourselves to actually read the police report.
Oh.
My husband instructed me to not read the police report. I read a little bit of it, and I didn't like what I had to hear, but what I'm thinking is that stray bullet, they were fighting over the gun.
Mm-hmm.
They fought in the breezeway, first of all, let me say that. They fought in the breezeway. This is 6 o'clock in the evening.
Okay.
No
So
one
neighbors
came
saw.
out. No one came out.
Oh wow.
No one came out. She's screaming, they're fighting. If he would have died, it would have been an open and close case, because each and every one of those apartments in that breezeway had door cams that were mandatory, put on the doors by the apartment. And I'm trying to figure out for the life of me, no one came out. But that tells me that that's an ongoing thing. That's an ongoing thing. And it's this thing that's become mind your own business. It's none of my business. Well, kind of like I'm in my apartment. I'm going to call 911, and they're not going to tell that I did. That's my thing. You don't have to run out and try to rescue anybody, but hey, if this is your place, this is your home. You hear all of this and you don't say anything? They fought in the breezeway. He put the gun up to her head, and he forced her into the apartment,
I see.
and that's where it took place.
And so that was his kidnapping charge. What's the
Yes.
status
Yes.
at this point?
Right now, he's still at Alvin S. Glenn. They still got him by himself. He can't be in general population because he's not having a good time
I see.
in there.
I see.
He's getting tormented. He's getting beat up. They had his mouth wired down because of the gunshot wound.
Okay.
And what we're told is they can't heal his mouth because they keep coming for him.
Wow.
Be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't think about him a lot. To me, he's done. I'm allowing God to do His will and have mercy on whatever He's supposed to have mercy on with him.
Right.
We don't speak of him to Kinsley. She brings him up because she loved her father. And don't get me wrong, he was a good dad. He really was. We loved him. He destroyed 2 families, ours and his own. He destroyed 2.
We'd like to hear from you guys. Give us a call, 783-993-6783 WWDM. When you hear stories like that, Leah, I'm sure you hear a lot of stories like that.
Way too many stories like that every day, whether it's domestic homicide, non-fatal strangulation, abuse, physical, emotional, financial, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. And something you mentioned really struck me, that no neighbors, didn't call 911, they didn't ask questions. There's this stigma that it's not my business, this is private, I'm not going to get involved. But domestic violence is a community issue. It affects each and every one of us, whether we know it or not. Who knows what a phone call could have done if a neighbor had just picked up the phone and said, I hear a domestic dispute. Who knows if that could have saved a life that day. And so it's important to remember, as we try to reduce domestic violence in our community, that it takes all of us. It is not just something that happens between partners. It is not just something that happens to other people. It affects all of us. And we need to stay strong on that and keep saying it and keep normalizing it, because that's how we're going to make any kind of real difference.
You know, you mentioned that it affects all of us, and I like to remind our audiences that without regard to wealth or social status or race or anything else, it affects all communities equally. And we are often surprised when we hear about these professional men that are abusers in their private lives at home. And so I just want to make sure that we're saying that so that people know and recognize that, you know, it's a problem everywhere.
Absolutely. Domestic violence does not discriminate. You know, it's not criminals that are out there, you know, creating these domestic abuse situations. Anybody can. You can live in the most grandest, most beautiful house at Lake Murray, or you could live under the bridge on 26. It affects everybody. There are additional barriers, of course, when you look at, you know, economic status and things like that, but it affects every single socioeconomic class, every race, every gender. It does not discriminate.
You know, one of my listeners wanted to make sure that we also mention the fact that there's a certain percentage of men who are affected. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. Domestic violence 100% affects men. And in fact, Sister Care, we get asked often because our name is Sister Care, we do serve men. And men experience domestic violence almost 29% in South Carolina. And a lot of times what we see is not so much the physical, it's the gaslighting, it's the psychological terror, it's them not feeling safe in their own home. And so we do work with survivors that are male as well. We have clinical counseling, helping getting orders of protection for safety, and it's very complicated. And so it is important to recognize that domestic violence does affect both men and women.
Do you think, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to talk about the part about the men. I had a friend, well, she was an old friend back in the day, but we kind of rekindled our friendship.
Sure.
And she called me, this was last year when all of this was going on. She called me, and I guess she had just gotten into it with her son's girlfriend. So she called me, and she was in a rage, and she was coming for me, actually. Wow. And I didn't catch it at first because she was like, okay, so what about if it's the guy? So are you just raising awareness for the women? Or you, and this is her tone, and I'm like, sis, hold on, what is it? But she was like, you know, maybe it could have been your niece. And I said, oh, okay, wait a minute, what's going on? And she was basically she was mad and she was angry because her son was in an abusive relationship with his girlfriend. And she was in the middle of it because she wanted him to get out. And we spent about an hour on the phone before we turned it around. But she was really angry because, you know, she wants her son to get out, but he feels as though if he leaves his girlfriend, then she may do something to herself. But she was abusing him.
Yeah, that's way too much pressure for a kid, isn't it?
It's not uncommon.
It's not uncommon.
Yes,
And I find that it is really, really difficult. I have 3 sons. And getting, you know, when they were younger, teens and what have you, I used to say, you know, I'm a single mom and I'm raising these boys. I can't teach them how to be men, but I can teach them how to be men that a woman is going to want.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You know, and it has definitely I've had our challenges. Our Gen X young ladies are being raised very differently. They the mental health, the sense of entitlement, the physical violence that they go to immediately, and it is really difficult to make sure that your
So
boys
we are seeing that our teens, boys and girls, go to violence against each other quickly. Okay, go ahead, Kiwan. I needed to digest that.
Yeah, I think that, you know, maybe from reality TV, it became really popular for women to just be quite dominant and throw glasses and do all kinds of
crazy.
Show us just a very unladylike side. And for young men who are growing up, how do you get them to how do they deal with that? you know, and know that, you know, if I defend myself,
Right.
I could find myself in a whole other type of situation.
I'm a boy mom.
It is, you know, I think now 2 out of 3 are married.
Yeah.
You're married.
My son's oldest son, his mother exposed him to physical abuse. He knew nothing about that. He knew nothing, and it was the case like my friend. He loved her and he cared about her, and she did those things. She played with his mental state of mind, and she hit him in the face with an ashtray, or like some kind of glass ashtray. When I got to my son, they had him on the sidewalk, handcuffed. He's bloody. And she's over here because he grabbed her by her neck after she did it. Because he had never, he didn't know anything about that.
Well, you know what's going to happen typically in those situations, and law enforcement arrives, they're going to assume that the
You
man
got
is
it.
the perpetrator of
Yeah,
that
he went to
situation.
jail.
That's the assumption.
He went to jail.
Well,
with the phone.
you
She
know,
had
They won't
marks
let me
around her.
down that either.
But I think it's really important, you know, that we do put that information out there, though, of course, we know the vast majority of people affected by the violence perpetrated against the victim is the victims typically are women, but there are cases where there are men as well. And we're going to take a break. You guys can give us a call, 783-9936, 783-WWGM. We are talking today about domestic violence. We are acknowledging the fact that we're seeing more incidents among young people. And we're also, in this next segment, we want to have the conversation about recognizing these signs.
Yes.
And regaining the power, you know, because it is about control, isn't it, Leah?
Absolutely, power and control. It's not an anger issue. I think a lot of people have that misperception. It is about power and control.
All right, guys, we're talking about love and violence. What a deadly combination. You guys, as I mentioned, can give us a call. We'll be right back.
All right.
Okay.
Good.
I don't know why John Tyler didn't call. I also gave him this number.
No, I think there's an issue with the phone. We're trying to figure it out.
So we tried calling on this one and this one. He tried calling me, but he's not getting it. He turned off his cell and John
Try
phone.
to call that number.
I tried to call my phone and it just.
No, I'm saying from your phone. Call that.
Oh, yeah. This is like I think you gotta go reset it like how Nita did last time.
Oh, she had to reset something?
I don't know what she did, but remember that day it was messing up on us?
I did.
She went back there and did something. I think she just
For the phone?
Mm-hmm.
Completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. Or
He
dial.
just dialed that number.
Wow. Back on. At 30 seconds.
Okay.
Please try again later. CLO.
She left out back there and came back and it was working, so I don't know what she did.
Hey guys, welcome back to On Point with Cynthia Hardy. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the show today. We're talking about, well, the topic of the show today is love and violence, deadly combination. We're talking about October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we are talking about real life cases in our community and what we can do. We're delighted to have a distinguished panel of guests. Kiwan Fish, thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you've done as an advocate, as an author, as a filmmaker, but also for telling your stories as a survivor. And also the aunt of Jalen Hasty, who was murdered at the hands of a romantic partner. Her aunt is here, Stephanie Jacobs is here, and so is Leah Weisovic. And we're delighted to have you here with us as well. Leah, of course, runs Sister Care. And Sister Care is one of those organizations in our community that we couldn't do without. So we just want to thank you for that, Leah, and let you know how we recognize that. So let's just go on back into the conversation. We were talking about the significance of recognizing signs. And the problem is signs are not obvious all the time of what's happening. Stephanie, did you know that Jalen was in any kind of danger?
No one knew. We believe her friends, her closest friends knew, but they didn't know how bad it was until the end.
You think he had abused her before?
We didn't know because I have to talk about, the structure of our family. We have a good village, and we come from a long line of generations of a village. My great grandmother had a village. My grandmother had a village. My mom had a village. I had a village. My son had a village, and even in the village, you even if you're in your relationships, if your relationships ended and there was kids involved, it was respect. It was respect because you were able to still coexist in the same settings with your X's and O's. I say that because, my dad had 8 brothers, and I have one set of first cousins, and then I have a second set.
I
of
got
first
you.
cousins. So the first wives, which would be my mom and the older ones, and then there was the second set.
Okay.
Family
Because
reunion.
some of them divorced and remarried.
Yes,
I
but
see.
but for the kids, we're gonna be friends. We're gonna shake hands. Even with my son's father, we wasn't friends, but when it came to my son, we're gonna get along respectfully, and it worked. And to the point where we could coexist. Him and his wife, me and my husband, we can all come together. So Jalen came from that.
I see.
And when the breakup happened, we still loved Katie. We didn't see, she didn't lead on, Jalen was an alpha. She was an alpha. So she knew how to, she knew how to handle herself. But I feel like she protected him
I see.
from us, and she protected us from him for the sake of Kinsley. Like I said, they wasn't in a relationship. They were co-parenting. And I believe, false hope played a part.
What do you mean?
When one person is not done, or when one person wants the other one and the other one has moved on, but just out of the kindness, you're gonna yield a little. Maybe I'm gonna eat dinner with him, and me and him are gonna go, and we're as a family, or we're gonna take the child together. I feel like in Katie's mind, he felt like he was gonna do whatever it takes to get his family back. And Jalen's upbringing allowed her to say, okay, we're having a family gathering. You're welcome to come, and it's okay if you come. Everybody's good. That's how it was. I mean, he could still, they wasn't together. He had a girlfriend. She had a boyfriend. And if we were having a family gathering, he was able to come over. So I think he kind of confused a little bit of her upbringing.
I see.
With maybe I got a chance,
I see.
and maybe seeing her
Fully move on.
exactly. I think that kind of bothered. I think that bothered him to the point where it caused him to start wanting power and control.
And
In the mic,
that stalking behavior, I mean, that is 100% domestic violence, whether you're in the relationship or it's ended. And it sounds like perhaps there's a chance that it didn't start until the relationship had ended. But for those of you out there listening, domestic violence can start once the relationship is over with that stalking behavior.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
That's when it started.
So I'm looking at our thread, and I appreciate Janet indicating that she is a proud survivor, because that's hard to say. Because to go in front of people and let people know that you have been victimized in that way puts you in a very vulnerable position. So Janet, love you, girl. Thank you for saying that. I also want to thank others that are on the stream as well. And I've had a number of men, and they're saying it in the thread. They just, men who are not perpetrators of violence, express disbelief that you can love and be violent toward a woman all in the same space. How is that explained?
It's so difficult to explain because women have a hard time believing it themselves. That's how it continues on for so long. But those men who have a hard time believing that are the men who can actually help. Because you can hold your brothers accountable to, this is how you speak to people, women, or, there has to be a message from their counterparts about what is and is not okay. When we don't allow good and positive and what's right we can't be friends. We can't go watch the game if I know that this is what you have going on in your house.
Absolutely.
It should not be okay. The brothers are supposed to, hold up, what is good and right. And if you are allowing your friends, brothers, your fraternity, like people who you are cool with, and you know that they are mistreating their partner, you're just as liable.
Yes.
So, Kiwan, you've been very upfront about the fact that you are a survivor,
Absolutely.
and so, but I look at you, and you're so strong, and you're so accomplished, and so, what kind of headspace were you in?
Man. Cynthia, I am not who I was then, and the thing is that I've been in South Carolina 15 years, and who I was before I got here, I was a broken mess.
Okay.
I was a broken mess. I was probably about almost 50 pounds more than what I am now. I was just not my best self.
I see.
I am fully aware that there was something in me that was quite open to allow someone to mistreat me.
But there was also something, there was greatness in you as well,
Because,
and you had to
listen,
know it.
I have a strong mom. My dad came home from Vietnam and got a woman pregnant and had a baby. That was pretty much how that went. He was not mentally in any kind of way ready to be a parent, or certainly not a husband or a parent. And then you have to. So when he finally got himself together and got off of the heroin and got himself to a place where he could become the person that he was truly intended to be, which was a huge advocate. He was a shop steward in the union. He also, he did amazing work in the community. The Jersey City chapter of Vietnam Veterans is named after him.
Oh, wow.
The street in front of his high school is the Clarence Fitch Way.
Oh, wow.
Like there's my legacy is pretty strong. And this is also the person who had to get there. So I had a lot of I think positive. I went to private school from kindergarten to 12th grade. There was so much that was poured into me to make me who I am. And for that person to get to the end of their high school years and say, I'm going to do cosmetology. What? Exactly. So what happened was I found out in my beginning of my sophomore year that my father was dying. And I went through the rest of my years in a bubble. I was his only child. He was my world. I was his. And it shifted and changed the whole trajectory of my entire rest of my life.
Wow.
He died 25 days before I graduated high school.
Wow.
So I came out into my adulthood lost, broken, not feeling good about me, certainly not feeling pretty. That was the furthest thing from who I felt, who I was. And I then allowed other people to their opinions of me falsely would become my own. And it was a long battle to get to a mental place where I could stand up for myself.
Okay.
Where I was not okay with being spoken to in the nasty way.
Okay.
I have the best relationship of my life right now.
Oh, good for you. Look at her.
And you know what's the thing about it is that this man's consistency, it's 2 years, and I swear he has not missed a beat.
What do you mean?
He shows up. There's not a day that goes by that he doesn't tell me how he feels about me.
Okay.
Every day. Now I'm talking 2 or 3 times a day, there's a I love you. When I sent the from the news that we did, we filmed Friday, his response, I see you. And for a woman who did not feel seen for so long, to have someone in your life, it shifted things. To see me, who I am, who I'm trying to be.
That's right, what I'm about, all of that.
And it's not about trying to be in that and do that. It's like, hey, he's home watching the grandkids. But it is amazing to know what I missed in that time where I was scared to death.
Can I jump in
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that I heard was that he tells you how he feels. So he's verbal. Was his upbringing like yours? Do you know much?
Well, actually, very, very much.
That's why.
Lots, not just the verbal, but lots of also domestic violence. You know, they cussed and fought, you know, all weekend long, and they made it through Monday through Friday. You know, but he's also has a Southern upbringing. You know, where you know, we're growing up in the North and it's very, very, very different. You know, we have a lot of conversations where it's, you don't know nothing about
Kiwan
that.
grew up in New Jersey.
So I think for
Mike-
me,
Mike Kiwan,
it's a
Mike.
cultural thing that makes the difference in terms of how we operate in our
Absolutely.
relationships and our things just a little bit different.
Absolutely.
And I'm grateful for that upbringing because that's how I brought up my boys. They talk about feelings. They talk about, you know, they tell their mother everything.
But I get what you guys are saying.
Well,
Go ahead, jump in there, Leah.
Well, I just wanted to jump in and say that for those who are listening, what's inspiring is look at you now. I mean, it's amazing to hear that you went through losing your father, which made you very vulnerable to someone who's into power and control to take
Absolutely.
advantage of that.
Absolutely.
And survivors, there is hope out there. You can turn your life around. You
I think that's an
100%
important message.
can. It is not over. It's going to be
Absolutely.
hard. But you got your village, you got your community, you have sister care, you have so many community partners, and you can turn your life around.
Let's talk about that because since I've done these shows, I've gotten messages, you've gotten messages too, from people who are in situations that they wish they were not in. All of them are not physically violent, but they don't feel good in their relationships. They're financially strapped because their spouse is the breadwinner, and they're doing very well, and people on the outside looking in think they're a great couple.
Absolutely. It's like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Yeah.
Oftentimes abusers can be the you know, the kindest, you know, the life of the party. Everybody just thinks they're great, has a great career, goes to church, always there for the kids' events. And a lot of times people say, how could he? No, not him. And so that's why we're having to change the narrative. It's not about the abuser, it's about the survivor and her experience, because it's very easy to portray that you're this perfect husband, this perfect partner, this perfect dad when you're terrorizing your family behind closed doors.
And that's and there's that word again, because it is terrorizing.
Yes.
You know, especially you think about children who are hearing it, as we talked about when we first started the show, and how traumatic that must be to a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, hearing threats and hearing angry voices and perhaps even witnessing, you know, the actual violence itself.
I didn't think of it until the boys were older. My eldest is like 10, 12 years older than my younger boys. And his experience with the boy's father is very different from the boy's experience.
Oh, okay.
Because they don't have the same dad. And so, you know, as young men who did not grow up with their dad because, you know, we separated so early on because of the abuse, but my son the older son saw that.
Sure.
He was with me when I did those prison visits.
Oh, I see.
You know, it became really a sticky situation when high school graduation was about to come, and the boys were like, well, maybe he could, and he's like, well, no, he can't.
Oh, I see.
So
the younger boys were saying, well, maybe your dad can come.
their dad, yeah, they were looking for their dad to possibly participate,
Oh.
who was my abuser, but they don't know him that way because they did not grow with him like
I
that.
see.
So, you know, and I did not, you know, when you don't want to tell them, well, you know, this is exactly why, but it got to the point where I had to just say, listen, there's a reason he's not in our life. And when I would share it with them, and it's like, really? But then they had to, I did not keep him from them. I allowed him to build the relationship with them that ended in disaster because he's going to be who he is. And the real him, no matter how much he tries to say I've changed and I really did abuse your mom, and he has owned up to it, but that's a part of the gaslighting. You know, I'm different now. I've changed. I am not that way anymore. Yeah, but that did not negate the fact that how you were. And then the boys, then even in their trying to build relationship with him, it became really, really difficult because, again, the real him is going to show up.
That trauma is present.
Oh, God.
That
Yes.
trauma is present. Now, Leah, the success stories, women that come through, that are like Kiwan Fitch, women that come through have had those lows in their lives, and get the gumption and the courage to stand up, to take their power back, to leave. That's probably the hardest thing, to actually make the decision to show up over at Sister Care where you guys house people. It's probably very difficult.
It's the most difficult decision because it's not black and white. It's not easy. And in fact, the most dangerous time for a victim of domestic violence is when they leave.
Really?
That's the
Very
most dangerous
very
time.
much.
And so
Because it angers the abuser so that she will leave him?
that, yes, it can increase the violence, domestic homicide, all of the above. Leaving is the most dangerous time. And so when we have clients come to us, they're scared, they're unsure, they're just completely different people. But what's so beautiful about the work we do, and I just have to say that the staff at Sister Care they're angels on earth. I mean, the things they hear, what they see, the stories that they process and have to take home with them every night. They're so dedicated to making a difference. But when we have women and children, whether they're in our shelter or getting counseling, seeing the transformation and seeing them become empowered and make decisions. We don't tell clients what to do. We don't say, if you want Sister Care, housing, you have to get counseling, or if you want Sister Care to help you with this, then you have to do that. Everything, we want all of our clients to be empowered to make their own decisions, and seeing them go from broken to never having been able to make a decision
To making all the
to
decisions.
making all the decisions, and to be able to live an independent and self-sufficient life. I mean, it's beyond, I always say it's beyond a survivor, you're a conqueror.
Yeah. Oh, I love
it
that.
really is. It absolutely is beautiful, and it can be done. And Sister Care can't do it alone either. We work hard night and day, but we have fabulous community partners. Being here and talking about it with these amazing women and with you, it takes all of us to be able to do it, but it can be done.
I want people to know about the depth and breadth of Sister Care.
Yeah.
So, where are you located? How many, what can you tell us about your operation? How many employees? Tell me that stuff.
Sure. So we are located, our administrative offices are in Casey, South Carolina, but
Gotcha.
we're actually located in 5 counties: Richland, Lexington, Newberry, Fairfield, and Kershaw. So we serve over 4,000 survivors every year with our direct services. And on top of that, we respond and provide crisis intervention for over 2,000 crisis line callers.
And how many employees?
We have between 65 and 70 employees.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
And so, if a person is out there and they want to find out what you offer, how do they do that?
We, our website, sistercare.org, has a lot of information. Also, our 24/7 crisis line, that number is 803-765-9428. We have trained crisis line advocates. They are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They answer questions, even family members if they have questions. They're there to provide any kind of advocacy to help get set up with services. Really anything that you need if you're going through an abusive situation or know someone that is, that's our front line. And from there, they can hook you up with whether it be emergency shelter or counseling or getting an order of protection through our legal advocacy program. They're there to guide you every step of the way.
And do you also have on your website ways that we can be of assistance to you?
Absolutely. We are a nonprofit. We do rely on donations and community support to be able to provide these services free of charge. We also welcome volunteers. Volunteers are huge. They play such a huge part in the work that we do, especially being out in the community, passing out information, letting the community know who Sister Care is and what we do. So, volunteers, of course, we always want financial donations, but volunteers and supporters,
Sure.
people that do drives for us for toiletries or things like that, make a huge difference. So we're very thankful for having a strong volunteer base.
And we'll make sure we get that line, the number, and put it in our, in the thread on social media, so that people will have access to that number. I can't tell you the number of people that I personally know that have benefited from your services, so thank you for what you do.
Yes.
You're listening to On Point with Cynthia Hardy. We're talking about love and violence being a deadly, deadly combination. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We're going to take a break and come back for our final segment. We'll be right back.
Ooh, that was really good.
Excuse me, that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That was really good.
Well, her mom, once we shut down Jalen's apartment.
Cynthia, maybe just
Audrey
say
had
one
to
line
shut
when you
down
come back
Eddie's house as well.
that the phone lines are
Yeah, his
down.
family was in
So just contact anybody who has been trying to call it.
So they are, we can't get any call.
They were angry.
No, even when he
They were
calls, when
distraught.
Dexter
They
tried to
just
call.
broken and
I'm so sorry.
just hurt is
Well, that's good to know. I wonder why people are calling,
And
so that tells
Monica,
me.
she got Jalen's
Because usually
journal,
shows like this
and
get
one of the
a few
journals
calls.
talked about them getting physical in 2017. Like an argument caused them to get physical back then. That's the
Do you see
trend
Deborah
that, you know,
Williams' question
with
in the
younger
comment?
Generation is
My
the
Wi-Fi.
physical relationships. If you're
No.
not physical in your relationship,
What did she
Is it
say?
true that the state of South Carolina does not recognize spousal rape?
you guys aren't doing. Yeah, yeah. It's a trend. It really
Do
is.
you know, Leah?
Yeah.
I do not feel comfortable asking the answer to that question.
All right.
That's more sexual assault. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
I've heard that before, but again, I don't know like the statutes and like what they exactly said.
Everybody stand by.
Stand by.
But that is abuse. Spousal rape is abuse.
Hey guys, welcome back to On Point with Cynthia Hardy. Thank y'all for tuning in today. I do want to tell our audience that our phone lines are down. That's why you've not been able to get through with us today, and we're getting texts and everything. And I'm sorry about that. We're working on it. We have in our studio Kiwan Fitch, who has been in the forefront of working as an advocate in this area for a long time. Also, Stephanie Jacobs, we're happy to have you as well. Tragically, you lost your niece to domestic violence last year, and you've become, and your family, a vocal family in this space for a long time. So thank you. And Leah Weisovic, we appreciate you being here, but we also appreciate, we love you, but we certainly do appreciate that Sister Care organization that you're the executive director of. You all have done some wonderful work across our state for a long time, and we honestly have come to depend on you. And I know there are a number of other organizations, but just want to say that. Now let's get on back into our conversation now and go ahead and wrap up the show. A number of people do want the information that we were giving, and of course they've been indicating that they've been trying to call, and we're sorry that our phone lines are down, but this has given us a chance to have some really good, valuable conversation. I want to talk about some of the activities your family has done, Stephanie Jacobs. When this happened to your family, you guys were, I saw you first on a special on Watch Fox that the news producer, Celeste Cannon, had I said news producer, news director, Celeste Cannon had produced over at Watch Fox. And it was this time of the year. It was around this time of the year, and you were talking about the fact that our community owes something. And many people were surprised at the affection that your family had for the perpetrator of the crime.
Yes.
But you basically were saying it's bigger than just one person, that it's a big community issue. And if we could love each other through it, it would be wonderful. But this is one of those situations where we really have to talk about it and talk about the hard conversations that need to be had around it.
Well, I can say this, it's been a year, and we have, we still have our days where it's hard. My sister and Jalen's father spoke for the first time. We did her balloon and butterfly release in August, and we did a big celebration. Jalen was a girl that wanted to celebrate. She wanted to be happy. She wanted everybody around her to be happy. She was a very peaceful girl, and she wanted everybody smiling. So we got a lot of kickback because even with her homegoing service, you know, we had the whole traditional repast for the ones that's traditionally.
But did you have a party too?
Oh, we turned up.
Oh, really?
We did, because that was my girl. Jalen was my girl. You know, I'm a boy mom, but Jalen was that was like my daughter. She was my mini me. And we did the repast for the ones who wanted to go over and do that. But big ups to My House Restaurant and Bar, because we had a celebration.
That's awesome.
Yes, we did. We had a celebration, and we have been celebrating her life ever since. This year, you know, we've got the Purple Fire Ride. We're asking everybody to ride. You don't have to be in a car club, bike club. We want everybody to meet us this coming Saturday, and let's just ride for J. Sarah.
Okay.
That's going to start and kick up at 1:00. And then actually on the 26th, to close out Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we are having the J. Sarah Purple Fire Vibe.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
It's just a party.
Sounds sexy.
And let me tell you, you're coming in your best shade of purple, whatever it is, young and old. Of course, you know, I cannot thank My House Restaurant and Bar enough for being there and being a part of, because they are like family. That's for awesome. Us. And so anything that we're doing, anything that we've got going on for J. Sarah, they're like, okay, it's whatever y'all want to do,
wonderful.
that's what we're doing. Beautiful. So we've got those two major events that are coming up. I'm trying to
and we'll put those in the thread too, okay?
Yes,
we need to do that.
Thank you. That generation, you know, of course, I'm her aunt, so you know, I don't mind saying I'm 53. So our generations are different. So I am trying to reach her generation. J. Sarah has a sister who is a senior at South Carolina State. We're so proud of Jordan, because Jordan is a senior and she has withered the storm of everything. Her 21st birthday, we celebrated her. That generation is where my work and my purpose lies. Yes, the new generation.
You're listening to On Point with Cynthia Hardy. We are talking about October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we are giving as much information as we possibly can on this show as to our experiences, but also ways that you can get help. Several of our viewers, Leah, are asking you to repeat when the most dangerous times to leave are and what those circumstances are.
Yes, it's the most dangerous time for a survivor of domestic violence is when she leaves. That's the most dangerous time, because it can,
and it's probably
it can
when she's the scaredest as well.
Yes, and it actually is unfortunate because it takes an average of 6 to 7 times to leave before it becomes permanent. But
really?
That's why it's important.
Because it's hard.
Yes,
huh?
It's hard. There's a million reasons why survivors stay with their abusers. But it's also important to remember that's why develop a safety plan. We have tools for that on our website to develop a safety plan so that when you are ready to leave, you can minimize some of that risk.
Like having stuff packed.
Yes, keep a bag at a trusted friend's house, or know, the safest way to get out of your house, or know a schedule. We have a checklist of ways that will help minimize that risk when it's time to leave. And also, if it's safe, when it's safe to do so, call our crisis line. That's, we do danger assessments. We do help with safety planning. Even if maybe it's not quite the right time yet, you have to leave when it's the right time for you. But we can still assist you getting to that point. You can call our crisis line anytime for any reason.
Because when kids are involved, that's another layer of things that you have to think about.
Yes, that's the number one reason why survivors stay is for the kids. And oftentimes they're used as leverage or bait, or if you leave, then I'm going to take the kids, or I'm going to tell law enforcement that you're an alcoholic, or we've had kids have to have their hair taken at our shelters for drug tests. That is the biggest way that abusers can hold power over over. And then also, oftentimes we see the pets. Or people don't think about that, but so many people, their dogs or their cats are part of their families, and so they don't want to leave because they're scared that the pets would face abuse or be neglected, which actually happens. And so we work with different organizations so that if that's a reason, we'll get your pet safely placed until you're ready to have your own apartment or own home.
Sure. We are at that point in the program. We're going to start taking our closing comments. We're going to start with Kiwan and move on down. I do want our audience to know about your film, She Pours. And I do want them to know about the fantastic team, Brandy Henshaw, that and her husband, Corey. And of course, Brandy was a personality over here at Alpha Media for a while, and she continues to do good things in the industry.
Absolutely.
And to see her doing these kinds of things, big ups to her, big ups to her husband, and you want to say something about that before we get out of here. Let people know where to go and see your
She
film.
Pours. It's on Amazon Prime. You can rent it or you can purchase it, and it is a short film, so don't be surprised. Like, okay, wait, I paid $2.99 and it's only. It is a short film, but it follows 4 women, and I've done so many anthology books. So a lot of what I've done, I like that style of monologue.
I
So
understand.
it's
It's never done. You've got another part. And another part.
Absolutely, and
another part.
I love the monologue. So we allowed these 4 women to share. It's actually scripted. Corey John is phenomenal at taking my vision and making it come to life.
I love that.
And the 4 ladies, they share from a work, body issues. We had politicians. We talked about the disparities of women's sports, and we also talked about colorism amongst us.
Well, we
especially
can't
women.
wait to see it.
Yes.
We can't wait to see it. So
Definitely.
again, tell us how we can get it.
You can download it on Amazon Prime. Just put in She Pours and it will come up, and you'll see our beautiful graphics that Beezy Baby created. She did all the graphics for She Pours.
Thank you. Appreciate it so much. Stephanie, your close.
Yes, I just want to say to everybody that is listening, if you know somebody or you feel like someone is in danger in an abusive relationship, you don't have to actually out them. Maybe get in touch with an aunt or an uncle or a cousin and just tell them, hey, you might want to take a closer look or get a safe eye on them. I witnessed something that didn't look or didn't seem right with him or her. Our motto now for Voice for J. Sarah is, save a life, lose the friendship. Lose the friendship and save their life. A friendship can be amended. We can come back down the road and later and say, well, let's amend and I'm sorry and we can apologize. But if you go silent and you don't say anything, the one thing that the family don't want to face, and we faced it, was everybody coming and telling us stories and episodes.
Sure.
And knowing more than we thought y'all knew. We lost a few people. We cut ties with a few people.
I can understand.
Because we felt, like you said, if you knew or if you heard or you saw, sis, I seen your niece. I didn't like it. I mean, so I say to the ones that are listening, lose the friendship, save their life, because they can't come back. The friendship can be amended, and the friendship can come back even stronger because you help them save that member's life.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you for all that you continue to do. In regards to your whole family, I know it's been difficult for you and your sister and just the whole family, especially the young people in the family, and it's good to see that you have them out there on the front line also advocating and raising awareness. So thank you for what you do. Your closing comment, Leah.
If you're out there listening and experiencing domestic violence, please know that it's never okay. It's never your fault. It's never an okay thing to be happening in your home. No matter if you didn't clean the kitchen, or you didn't do this right, or you didn't get the laundry done, or pick up this. It's never your fault. No one deserves to be abused, no matter what. And you have a community standing by you to help you get out safely and get the support and resources you need. We don't want anyone else in our community to end up losing their lives to domestic violence. So please know that you're not alone. We believe you. We believe in you. And reach out to our 24/7 crisis line anytime.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah Weiselbeck. Thank you, Stephanie Jacobson. Thank you, Kewan Fitch. I just love you guys, and thank you for being here. Before we get out of here, I did promise Tori Sims that I would mention Gangs in Peace Fall Festival coming up on the 19th of October from 2 to 6 p.m. at 575 Anders Drive. Free entry. Yeah, they got it going on. They got free food. They got activities. They got horseback riding decks. They got crafts. They got games. They got a Dunkin' booth. They just got it going on. And it's going to be a really, really great time. So thank you. And I'll see what I can do to continue to give them some conversation on this issue, because I think it's really important. I want to thank the team that I have the pleasure of working with. I want to thank H. Dove for sitting in for Nita today. Thank you, H. Dove.
Welcome.
Yes, it's so good to see you in person. Shouts out to Dr. Joy. Let her know we said hello.
Absolutely will.
I want to thank Dexter Stroman for all that you do, Dex. You just are always there for us, whatever it is we need. You morph into whatever we need. So thank you so much. Our producer, our absolutely wonderful producer, Celeste Cannon. Thank you, Celeste, for all that you do and your vision on so many spaces. So thank you for that. I also want to thank a few other people out there. I want Marnie Robinson to know we're thinking about her. Macy Smith, thank you. David Pendergrass, we appreciate you too. I'm your host, Cynthia Hardy. We recognize when we provide information like we did today, it doesn't just inform, but it also empowers. Informed, empowered, and on point, you guys. We're going to see you next week. Bye. 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 That's great.